that introduction. So as the camera pulls out, we may actually see Hillary Clinton walk onto the stage. And we'll go to this live as it happens. Guy, I want to get your quick opinion on this real quickly.
Very similar tone, I expect, to the foreign policy speech that we saw a few weeks ago. It would be fascinating if she would follow up on this speech by taking, I don't know, lots of questions from reporters, something she has not done.
That is not a typical thing for Hillary Clinton.
200 days.
Let's watch and listen together.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be back here in Columbus. I want to thank Whitney for not just her wonderful introduction, but for all the hard work that she has done to build her career and the very strong endorsement that she has given to Fort Hays Career Center. Everyone associated with Fort Hays, I want to thank you. This is exactly how we will create more good jobs with more opportunities for more people, and it's exciting to be here in a place that does just that. I want to thank Governor Ted Strickland, who I hope is soon to be Senator Ted Strickland. Chairman David Pepper of the Ohio Democratic Party, Zach Klein, President of the Columbus City Council, John O'Grady, President of Franklin County Board of Commissioners, and all of you for being here with me. I have to say I am pretty thrilled to be here for the first time speaking to any group like this as a grandmother of two now. It was an exciting weekend. Chelsea and Mark had a little boy, and we are just truly over the moon. I have to confess, I've talked so much about being a grandmother. Now I'm sure I'm going to be talking doubly about being a grandmother. New stories to tell. It's always great to be back in Ohio, and I want to talk about a challenge that Ohio families know well: growing our economy and making it work for everyone, not just those at the top. For more than a year now, I have been listening to Americans across our country. You've told me how the recession hit your communities, how jobs dried up, home values sank, and savings vanished. And I have seen how hard you've worked to get back on your feet. If we've learned anything about the economy over the past 20 years, it's that a president's economic decisions have real consequences for families. President Obama was handled the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Thanks to his leadership and the hard work and resilience of the American people, we have seen more than 14 million private sector jobs created over the last 6.5 years. And here in Ohio, the auto industry has made a strong comeback. And how appropriate, as we are here in the area where students learn about autos, learn about how they're made and how they work. So we know people are working harder and longer just to keep their heads above water and to deal with the costs, the everyday costs, the costs of basics like childcare and prescription drugs that are too high. College is getting more expensive every day, and wages are still too low, and inequality is too great. Good jobs in many parts of our country are still too hard to come by. Now, these problems are serious, but I know we can overcome them together. I really believe in this country because I believe in the American people. America's economy isn't yet where we want it to be, but we are stronger and better positioned than anyone in the world to build the future that you and your children deserve. And I have spent my adult life working to even the odds for people who've had the odds stacked against them. I helped break down barriers to education for poor and disabled children as a young lawyer, fought for health insurance for all, and have been committed to that since my days as First Lady. I worked to bring opportunity back to upstate New York and a lot of depressed communities there as senator, and went to bat for American workers and businesses as your Secretary of State. And everything I've learned and everything I've done has convinced me we are stronger when we grow together. And I've said, throughout this campaign that my mission as president will be to help create more good-paying jobs so we can get incomes rising for hardworking families across America. It's a pretty simple formula. Higher wages lead to more demand, which leads to more jobs with higher wages. And I've laid out a detailed agenda to jumpstart this virtuous cycle. And you can go to my website, HillaryClinton.com, and read all about it. And I do admit it is a little wonky. But I have this old-fashioned idea that if you're running for president, you should say what you want to do. How you're going to pay for it, and how you'll get it done. I actually sweat the specifics because they matter. Whether one more kid gets health care may just be a detail in Washington, but it's all that matters to that family worrying about their child. Tomorrow in North Carolina, I will set out ambitious new goals that will help us build a stronger, fairer economy. We'll work with both parties to make transformational investments in good-paying jobs, in infrastructure, advanced manufacturing, clean energy, and small business. And we'll tackle the twin problems of college affordability and student debt. We'll pursue innovative ideas like corporate profit sharing, because everyone who works hard should be able to share in the rewards of their hard work. And to pay for these investments, we will make sure Wall Street corporations and the super rich contribute their fair share. And through it all, we're going to make sure our policies match how families actually live, learn, and work in the 21st century. And so that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow in North Carolina and throughout this campaign. But today, I want to talk about what Donald Trump is promising to do to the economy. After more than a year, it's important that he be held accountable for what he says he'll do as president. And we need to clear the way for a real conversation about how to improve the lives of working people. A few weeks ago, I said his foreign policy proposals and reckless statements represent a danger to our national security. But you might think that because he has spent his life as a businessman, he'd be better prepared to handle the economy. Well, it turns out he's dangerous there, too. Just like he shouldn't have his finger on the button, he shouldn't have his hands on our economy. Now, I don't say that because of typical political disagreements. Liberals and conservatives say Trump's ideas would be disastrous. The Chamber of Commerce and labor unions, Mitt Romney and Elizabeth Warren, economists on the right and the left and the center all agree Trump would throw us back into recession. One of John McCain's former economic advisors actually calculated what would happen to our country if Trump gets his way. He described the results of a Trump recession. We would lose 3.5 million jobs, incomes would stagnate, debt would explode, and stock prices would plummet. And you know who'd be hit the hardest? The people who had the hardest time getting back on their feet after the 2008 crisis. One of the leading firms that analyzes the top threats to the global economy, called the Economist Intelligence Unit, comes out with a new list of threats every month. It includes things like terrorism and the disintegration of Europe. And this month, number 3 on the list is Donald Trump becoming President of the United States. Just think about that. Every day we see how reckless and careless Trump is. He's proud of it. Well, that's his choice. Except when he's asking to be our president. Then it's our choice. Donald Trump actually stood on a debate stage in November and said that wages are too high in this country. He should tell that to the mothers and fathers working 2 jobs to raise their kids. He said, and I quote, "Having a low minimum wage is not a bad thing for this country, at a time when millions working full-time are still living in poverty." Back in 2006, before the financial crash, Trump said, and again I quote, "I sort of hope that the housing market crashes because he'd make money off of all the foreclosures." Over the years, he has said all kinds of things about women in the workforce. He once called pregnant employees, and I quote, "an inconvenience." He says women will start making equal pay as soon as we do as good a job as men, as if we weren't already. Now, these are the words not of someone who thinks highly of women who work or who cares about helping parents balance work and family, but instead he clearly doesn't know much about how we have grown the economy over the last 40 years, which is largely thanks to women getting into the workforce and adding to family incomes. And he wants to end Obamacare, but has no credible plan to replace it or to help keep costs down. It really wouldn't be good for our economy, would it, if 20 million people lost their health insurance and we were back to absolutely skyrocketing costs for everything? It would be devastating to families. It would also be bad for the economy. Here's exactly what he's promising to do as president and why I believe it's wrong for America. First, there's his plan for Wall Street. After the 2008 crisis, President Obama fought to enact the toughest, most comprehensive set of Wall Street reforms since the Great Depression. They're designed to protect consumers and ensure that Wall Street can never again take the kinds of risks that crashed our economy the last time. So what would Trump do? He said he wants to wipe out the tough rules we put on big banks. He said they created, quote, a very bad situation. Well, he's got it backwards. The very bad situation was millions of families seeing their homes and savings disappear. He also wants to repeal the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the new consumer watchdog that Senator Warren helped create to protect families from unfair and deceptive business practices. That new agency has already secured billions of dollars in returns for people who have been ripped off. Donald Trump wants to get rid of it. Trump would take us back to where we were before the crisis. He'd rig the economy